Hello Year 8, it's Mrs Purcell here. Today we'll be looking at a lovely poem entitled Hour by Carol Ann Duffy. To get us started, there are some words from the poem in the navy blue boxes. I'd like you to select 3 of these words and write as many connotations as you can for each word. So a connotation is simply ideas which come to mind when you think of a word. For instance, if I was given the word red, some connotations I might have for red could be love, passion, hell, fire, anger and danger. Also, have a look at the star challenge if you'd like to stretch yourselves. Pause the video now to give that a go. So today we'll be exploring ideas about love in a poem, and this is because it's a common theme which often comes up in poetry, and we're going to do this by reading Hour and by analysing it. Carol Ann Duffy is a Scottish poet and playwright. She's remarkable because she's the first woman, the first Scot, and the first openly LGBTQ person to become poet laureate. She's a feminist and her poems often reflect this. So Hour is taken from a poetry collection called Rapture, which charts a 15-year relationship that Duffy had with a woman called Jackie Kay, and it charts it from the beginning to the end. So as a challenge, I want you to think about the fact that this poem is taken from the beginning of the collection and therefore was written about the beginning of their relationship. So what sort of feelings might be portrayed in that poem? Pause the video now and have a think. Okay, there are a couple of devices which you may not have heard of, but which you need to understand in order to fully appreciate the poem. So have a look at these. We've got illusion and lexical sets. I want you to pause the video and see if you can guess what each of these devices are, or you might already know them, which is great, in which case write the definition. An illusion is when you refer to another piece of literature within a poem or a piece of writing. So the example we have there is he had to do all the chores at home. He was like a male Cinderella. So that reference there to Cinderella is our allusion to another text. A lexical set is where a large number of words in a poem relate to a similar theme. You can find lexical sets in prose as well. It doesn't just have to be in poetry. But for instance, if a poem had the following words, you could surmise that it was a love poem. So romance, roses, kiss, hug, presents. We know that that could all link to love. So it's basically words that have a common theme or just something in common. Here are some words you may not have come across before from our text. Can you pause the video now and try and guess what they are? Midas was a Greek mythological king, and he had a wish that he wanted everything he touched to turn to gold. And actually it ended up to be a bit of a curse for him, and it's where we get the saying, the golden touch or the Midas touch. Backhanding is hitting someone or something with the back of your hand. A cuckoo is a type of bird, as can be seen in the picture over there. Can you choose one of your new words and explode it in the mind map? Pause the video now. As I'm reading this poem, I'd like you to think about the 2 questions that are on the right hand side. So what do you think the poet is saying about love? And does this match your earlier predictions? So for those of you who did the Star Challenge about predicting what this poem is about. Right. Hour. Love's time's beggar, but even a single hour bright as a dropped coin makes love rich. We find an hour together, spend it not on flowers or wine, but the whole of the summer sky and a grass ditch. For thousands of seconds we kiss, your hair like treasure on the ground, the Midas light turning your limbs to gold. Time slows, for here we are millionaires, backhanding the night so nothing dark will end our shining hour. No jewel hold a candle to the cuckoo spit, hung from the blade of grass at your ear. No chandelier or spotlight see you better lit than here. Now, time hates love, wants love poor, but love spins gold, gold, gold from straw. Pause the video and have a think about those two questions. There are many interpretations of this poem, but one that I like is that time is the enemy of love. So we should be spending time enjoying our loved one's company rather than wasting it on insignificant activities. Another interpretation is that you cannot be richer than when you are spending time with the person you love. So no amount of gold and jewels will make up for that. So even spending an hour with a loved one in a grass ditch is better than flowers and wine and money. Duffy actually wrote this poem in the style of a Shakespearean sonnet. Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets in his lifetime, and they were all poems which adhered to a very strict structure. So look at the questions in blue to help you to understand some of the features of a Shakespearean sonnet. Pause the video to give it a go. Okay, obviously we have 14 lines to our poem, so every sonnet had 14 lines. Also, the main theme of our poem is love, and many of Shakespeare's sonnets explore the themes of love. If you are able to link Shakespeare to this style of poem and explain the reasons why, that is a higher level skill. Finally, the rhyme scheme has been asked of you in the STAR Challenge. This also links to the Shakespearean style. A rhyme scheme might be a bit challenging if you've never had to find one before. Basically, you look at the last word of each line of a poem and go down the letters of the alphabet in order. If they rhyme, they are the same letter. I would say Duffy loosely uses Shakespeare's rhyme scheme. If we have a look at the first line, hour and flowers rhyme, even though they are technically a half rhyme. Therefore, we would give them both the letter A. Rich and ditch rhyme, so they are B, and so on. Some of the more perceptive of you would see that actually lines 1 and 9 end with the same word and therefore rhyme. However, that wouldn't be typical of the sonnet rhyme scheme. The typical Shakespearean sonnet rhyme scheme goes A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Let's have a look at this a little further. In terms of it being a Shakespearean sonnet, the theme is about love and it's 14 lines long. It also follows the rhyme scheme. Another note to make about it structurally is that the first 4 lines are alternate rhymes, which means that every other line rhymes. The same is done with lines 5 to 8 and 9 to 12. The final 2 lines rhyme with each other, so we call these a rhyming couplet. One last thing to note is that in a Shakespearean sonnet, each line would be made up of 10 syllables of stressed and unstressed sounds. The fancy name for this is iambic pentameter. Duffy hasn't done this within her poem, however. Have a look at the questions on the right. Pause the video to give them a go. The main lexical set is linked to wealth. So the words which show this are beggar, coin, rich, treasure, Midas, gold, millionaires, jewel, poor and chandelier. There are other lexical sets too. So there's one about light and there's one about time, but wealth is the most obvious one. So for number 2, the allusion is to Rumpelstiltskin, which is a story that was collected by Brothers Grimm. This is a story about an imp who spins straw into a gold and exchanges it for someone's firstborn. So the moral is that no one is worth more than money. And as for number 3, there are many similes and metaphors in the poem. There's for thousands of seconds we kiss, your hair like treasure on the ground is one of the similes, and we are millionaires is a metaphor. You can think about how these might link to the main message of the poem. Okay, your main task for today is to write at least one piece paragraph. For those of you in higher sets, you should be aiming to write more. Please give as much detail as you can. Your question is, how does Duffy portray or show her feelings about love in the poem Hour? Your point should answer the question. You've been given some words at the top which will help to make your writing more sophisticated, so interestingly, arguably, and so on. Your evidence is obviously your quotation. Try to make this no longer than 8 words. Your exploration is really pulling apart that quote and explaining what it tells us about love. To push yourselves and to write better, you should try to do more than one explanation of the quote. Detail is key here. The more you write, the better. Your zoom in can be looking at one word from your quote in detail. So remember, like the connotations exercise you did in your do now. Or you can discuss the effects of a device, for instance, a simile or metaphor. Finally, your zoom out can either be how this poem makes the reader feel, so just write your own feelings but refer to yourself as the reader, or what's Duffy's main message within the poem. Good luck, and pause the video now to give this a go. Finally, this is your last little exercise. Duffy compares love to treasure and to gold. What else do you think love could be compared to? Look at the images to help you. Once you have finished, be sure to send your work to your teacher. Well done for all your hard work, Year 8. Bye.